Now, I think it's safe to say that you've heard probably everything you've needed to hear about Pulp Fiction up to this point. How it's a masterpiece of American cinema, which honestly, I don't use that term lightly, but I think that's exactly what Pulp Fiction is. And let's talk about it on its 30th anniversary, my friends. Holy cow. In the kind of secret quest on my channel to figure out which Best Picture nominee from 1994 actually deserved to win, you guys might remember at the very beginning of 2024, I reviewed Forrest Gump, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So now here we are with another 1994 heavyweight in Pulp Fiction. Of course, written and directed by the one and only Quentin Tarantino, we follow Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield, played by John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, respectively. They're a pair of hitmen with a penchant for philosophical discussions, whether that be Bible verses or cheeseburgers from McDonald's. You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France? They call it a Royale with cheese. Royale with cheese. Like, there is no way you watch Pulp Fiction and not want to eat a damn cheeseburger after it.
This is a tasty burger.
Anyway, Vincent and Jules' storyline is actually interwoven with what seems like a dozen other storylines along the way. We see interactions with their boss, Marcellus Wallace, played here by Ving Rhames, his actress wife, Mia, played by Uma Thurman in a star-making turn, Master Fixer Winston Wolfe, played by Harvey Keitel, a nervous pair of armed robbers, played by Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer, and of course a struggling boxer named Butch, played by the one and only Bruce Willis. And for those of you who have never seen Pulp Fiction, spoiler warning, movie's 30 years old, so I think I can discuss this plot point. This movie is told out of order. And I will hold my hand up and admit, the first time I watched Pulp Fiction, I didn't get it. I was so freaking confused by the layout of this movie and why it was presented in this manner. But I was just so fascinated by it that I kept wanting to go back to it. And every time I revisit Pulp Fiction, it feels like I discover something new. What with the cinematography having some sort of foot fetish with how many foot shots are in this movie, which is damn weird. Whether it be on another rewatch, all the discussions of cheeseburgers and how hungry they make me. Seriously, if you don't have a cheeseburger of some sort during or after watching Pulp Fiction, like, there's something wrong with you. But I think it was either on this most recent rewatch or the one before it, that's where I kind of noticed that this movie needed to be told out of order. Because there are a couple of really deep hidden themes about redemption and salvation, and you can't really talk about those things, and you can't really present those things in the way that Tarantino wanted to present it if you didn't tell this thing out of order. Because of all the storylines we're following, there are three main characters here, technically. You have Vincent, played by John Travolta, in what was a comeback performance at the time. John Travolta is one of my mom's favorite actors ever, and I will absolutely call her out for that. Like, she loved him in Grease. I mean, I can't really say much else about that. Love you, Mom. But joking aside, Vincent Vega, John Travolta here, he is absolutely perfect. His comedic timing is stellar. The dance sequence that he has with Uma Thurman, who is also equally great in this movie, so freaking iconic. And again, watching Uma Thurman in this scene alone makes you want a milkshake. Like, damn, Pulp Fiction makes you hungry. But Vincent is a character who is very comfortable with his life of crime. That's kind of one side of the spectrum that you get here. But then we come across Butch, who's played by Bruce Willis, and I feel like this is one of his more underrated performances. I know that's kind of weird to say because this is a very memorable performance of Bruce Willis, but when I think of Bruce Willis, I think more of Die Hard. I think more Sixth Sense. I think more Unbreakable. And I don't want to say I forget that he's in Pulp Fiction. I mean, I know he is. But he's not the most memorable part of this movie for me, which is so weird to say, but that's why I think Bruce Willis is so underrated and he's so fucking awesome in this. Like, yes, he's a big, burly, brawny, tough guy on the outside, and he looks like he could kick your ass in 2 minutes, but he is very uncomfortable, almost to the point of cowardice in this movie. Especially when he starts getting involved in this crime scene here. Like, he wants nothing to do with this, and he wants to do anything it takes to get out, which is why it's so jarring when Vincent actually dies in Butch's shower at the hands of Butch himself. That's where the first time I watched Pulp Fiction, I was like, huh? You kill off one of your main characters like that? That is insane to me. But then we circle back around and we get the whole sequence with him and Samuel L. Jackson cleaning off the blood in Quentin Tarantino's car. That sequence is fucking hilarious. It will always make me piss my pants with laughter. Tarantino is another one of those actors that really likes to write himself some supporting roles in here. Supporting roles were like the maximum for him though. Like he never wrote himself a starring role in any of his feature films. So I kind of respect him in a sense for his humility. Pulp Fiction is ultimately what made Quentin Tarantino the star director that he is though. And I think it's safe to say without Pulp Fiction, there would be no Tarantino. Without Pulp Fiction, we wouldn't get phenomenal movies later on in his career like Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, my personal favorite of his, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood most recently. And I think it's also safe to say without the influence of Pulp Fiction, a lot of movies wouldn't even dare to attempt what Pulp Fiction actually did here. The unorthodox way of storytelling, the style of the movie, the dialogue that we get, the realistic dialogue. Like these sound like legit conversations I would have in everyday life, albeit under pretty demented circumstances. But yeah, these are pretty regular conversations here. That's why I think this script is one of the absolute greatest I've ever heard. And then last but not least, I think it's safe to say that without Pulp Fiction, there would be no Samuel L. Jackson. Yes, he had a very small part in Jurassic Park the previous year, and he was very memorable in that. You didn't say the magic word. But the whole opening sequence where they go into the dude's apartment and Samuel L. Jackson is eating his big kahuna burger and he's judging this guy for having a cheeseburger for breakfast before shooting his brains out and quoting Bible verses.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
That opening sequence and this whole first act, this whole movie rather, every time I revisit it, never gets old. It is so consistently and relentlessly entertaining. And I think the key to Pulp Fiction really is that third act. Because unlike Vincent, Jules is a guy who is very torn. He's very content with the crime life, but he's also looking for a way out of it himself. He doesn't want to be involved in crime his whole life. Like, it's a job he can do, but he doesn't want to do it necessarily. That's why this ending taking place in the restaurant, again told out of order with Jules and Vincent basically walking out and into the unknown. That's why that whole ending sequence, and that's why this whole movie works so well. Because it's telling so many stories about redemption. And in that moment, Jules was redeemed. Like, honestly, the list goes on and on when I prose of Pulp Fiction. There are so many memorable spots in this movie. So many crazy occurrences. The syringe sequence, holy shit, that scarred me the first time I watched that through. And I didn't even mention Christopher Walken's brief appearance in here talking about the gold watch. Like, again, you want to talk about star-making performances in just one scene? Christopher Walken was made into what Christopher Walken is with that one sequence, I feel. And then Christopher Walken became even more Christopher Walken about 5 years after that with more cowbell. Living legend. Which, speaking of, Pulp Fiction is a living legend of a movie that absolutely needs to be seen to be believed. With its unique method of storytelling, its distinct style, its production value, the direction, the performances, everything about this movie is just dynamite. It is the gold that you find in the bottom of your briefcase. I love Pulp Fiction, and it's safe to say that there's a lot of aspects of pop culture that would not be where it is today. And there's a lot of little tiny influences in movies nowadays that wouldn't have happened if not for this movie. That and so many other reasons, this movie is a certified masterpiece. I'm going to give Pulp Fiction an A+. Damn it, I want to watch this movie again right now. I don't care that it's 2.5 hours. I will rewatch the hell out of this. Because I guarantee you, even after this review, I'm going to discover something new. And speaking of something new, I actually have to talk about something really cool that I did. Please keep an eye out on my friend Erica's channel because I did a really cool collaboration with her involving a pinball machine. Yes, that's right. There is a Pulp Fiction pinball machine. I got a chance to play it with her and I got a chance to review it and watch the movie with her as well. And that collaboration was tons of fun. So I will put a link to her channel in the description box. Please go show her some love. Go subscribe to her. She absolutely deserves it. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button for me as well. Tap on that thumbs up if you enjoyed what you saw today. There are no shortage of fun topics that we can discuss over here in the cinematic world. And I really do appreciate your guys' patience with me. Ever since the move, my content hasn't been as regular or as relentless as I used to put it out, but I'm so appreciative that you guys continue to come back. So with all that being said, back talk commence.